Is that disturbing you?
Nope. No. We edit in post.
So nice.
Sounds good.
I can't hear myself in my headphones. I've got no snare in my headphones.
No snare. Everybody, can everybody hear everybody?
I can hear
No.
you.
Check.
Good
Now I can
morning.
hear.
Check.
Check.
Cock and balls. All right.
Cock and balls.
Balls.
Both? Did you say that? Cock and balls?
Yeah.
I love describing things as cock and balls.
Bullocks.
It's like one of the funniest movies that I've seen in recent years was Dewey Cox Walk Hard. And I love it in part because of all the... Have you seen it? Oh, my God.
I've never even heard of it.
There are some hilarious, like, totally gratuitous cock and ball shots in the movie that are just like, there's no reason for them to exist, but they just are there, and it's so funny.
Are we
I
talking,
love that movie.
That movie is so fucking funny.
Are we talking about porn? Dewey Cox?
Dewey Cox Walk Hard with John C. O'Reilly. It's like a spoof
It's like
on,
on Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
On,
It's so...
really
Watch, do yourself a favor and watch it some night.
I'm
It's
putting it
really-
on
I
my
had
thing.
suppressed all knowledge of that movie.
I totally thought it was going to be stupid, and it is stupid, but it's funny stupid.
Okay.
But it's hilarious stupid and fully worth your time.
All right. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
I'm ready.
Ready.
Yep.
3, 2.
From the Detroit Shipping Company studios of Podcast Detroit, this is your Daily Detroit, recorded on December 1st, 2018. Today, we have some friends of the pod on.
Yes, that's right. It's a very special holiday episode because we're recording this on one of our favorite nights of the year, Noel night. I'm Sven Gustafson.
And I'm Jer Stays. On today's show, Sven's back from Los Angeles. We talked to him about what happened, what are the Detroit-related developments, and what's next. You'll hear a few other voices today. Nuri Gojai, technologist.
Hey, Jer.
Cheyenne Noserini, who tells you about what to check out around Detroit.
Hey, everybody.
And my co-host in this, of course, is Sven Gustafson.
I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Randy Walker, who's usually behind the scenes, but we let him out today.
Hello.
And finally, Laura Kay has dropped in, host of the Sexistential Crisis podcast. She's a storyteller that's been on The Moth and a bunch of other places, and actually the next episode will feature her. So, welcome.
Hey, guys.
All right, let's get to it. Sven, you were out in Los Angeles this last week. That's why you haven't been on the pod.
That's right.
What's up out there?
Well, they had this thing called an auto show, and so I was working there. We should probably explain that to people, right?
Yes, exactly. Let's do a level set.
Yeah. So I was at the LA Auto Show working for Autoblog. You know, we sometimes talk to Greg Migliori, who's the editor-in-chief over there. Anyway, I went to the auto show, covered it, did lots of other fun things in LA. It's a crazy, fast town. You know, the jet lag is okay. I managed to sleep until 10 today, so that was helpful.
Very nice.
Yeah. But you want to talk about cars?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, so I was thinking about this, and actually, I think that arguably the two biggest stories from the LA Auto Show this year were dominated by American companies. One is Jeep, which everyone knows about. The second one is a little startup called Rivian that nobody at this table, I'm sure, has heard of until probably now. And I'll get to them in a minute. So the big one was Jeep, which came out with the Gladiator, which is a 4x4 pickup truck. It's a crew cab, so it's 4-door and everything. It's an off-roader, you know, so it's got all kinds of off-road driving options. People are way into that. I didn't cover that personally, so you know, I'm reading the coverage, and I'm really not a pickup truck guy necessarily, but Jeep is on this huge roll. I mean, I saw my friend Nathan Bomey, who writes for USA Today, had a story about that reveal, and he quoted an analyst who called it a Jeep as a Teflon brand.
Well, it really is, and that article is great. We'll make sure to link to it in the show notes. It's interesting to me that Jeep has not done as much, it seems, in this whole autonomous electric. You don't hear them talked about in that conversation too often.
No, you don't, and that may be coming. I'm not familiar with what their plans may be for that brand. I'm sure they're talking about it, but right now I don't think they need to. I mean, Jeep is like one of the most valuable automotive brands there is right now, which is just crazy. But so there was a lot of buzz about the Gladiator. Again, you know, an off-road truck. It's going to have a diesel version, which is really interesting because diesel virtually doesn't exist anymore in this country except for big, heavy trucks. So that's going to be really interesting. The Gladiator name is, you know, has sort of raised some eyebrows. Like, it could be like the new Hummer, like where it's going to be the thing to own if you live in, the Bloomfield Hills of the world and drive around the subdivision like, honey, let's go to dinner tonight. Let's take the Gladiator,
Well, they've got the other trucks like the Renegade, and they had the Patriot for a while. They're into that name.
Yeah, they are. Well, it's an American brand, it's Toledo proud, man, Jeep.
And then the other...
And it goes way back to, World War...
Well, I mean, Gladiators were in like the
two,
Roman...
for sure. I'm
well,
trying
the
to
Jeep
remember if
brand
it's
goes
one
to
or
World
two.
War II, and then the Gladiator name obviously harkens from Roman days. The other company I thought we should mention is Rivian.
Yeah. So this was really interesting, and this was kind of like... I wrote a story for Autoblog that, I gave it a headline that, the brand that stole the LA Auto Show, basically. So this... And I mentioned that they're a Detroit brand and no one's heard of it. Their de facto headquarters, I guess, is out in Plymouth. And they've basically stayed quiet. So the backstory here is that they're a startup company. They make electric vehicles. They started back in 2009 in Florida. This guy who was 26 at the time, his name is RJ Scaringe, if I'm saying that correctly, who went to MIT and Rochester Polytechnic Institute, got a mechanical engineering degree and doctorate. The company kind of evolved, had two different names before they settled on Rivian. Their chief communications officer told me that up until a few weeks ago, they didn't even have a sign on their building out in Plymouth. Plymouth, I think, is their biggest office, but they've got two other offices out in California. One in Southern California, another one up in the Bay Area that focuses on autonomous vehicle technology. And then they bought an old Mitsubishi plant in central Illinois that they are fixing up right now to get ready to start building their two vehicles next year in 2019. So they've got two vehicles. A pickup truck called the R1T, and then a full-size SUV called the R1S. Now, the reason, these are fully electric vehicles, battery electric, and the reason I think that everybody that they gathered so much attention is the specs on these cars are really unbelievable. You're talking about 400-mile plus driving range for full battery electrics. That is Tesla. That even beats most Tesla figures that you've got out there. And the really interesting thing, they announced the pickup truck first. Well, Elon Musk is very keen to make a pickup. They've got this plan for a battery electric pickup truck, but it doesn't exist except as this idea that Elon Musk has talked about. Here comes this company, Rivian, that has technically talked about it for a few years, but basically has been pretty quiet. For a lot of people, including me, this brand came out of thin air. And they're talking about a 400-mile plus driving range. You'll be able to go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. It's in
a truck,
in a pickup truck. Yeah, the output figures are insane. Something like 11,000 pound-feet of torque. Electric vehicles are famous for their torque.
Right.
If you've ever been
it's just insane. It's like a punch.
Yeah, if you've ever driven in a Tesla before or been a passenger in one, it's insane. You just plaster yourself against the back of that seat.
Right, and then there's 4 electric motors, one on each wheel. Each of them are 200 horsepower, so 800 horsepower total. So this thing is both vehicles are pretty much the same specs, and they're screaming fast. Assuming that they're they prove accurate.
The mileage is pretty interesting too, because I think the smaller Teslas get about 265 to a charge, and the P100s get, I think, 335. That's just from memory.
About right, yeah.
But if a truck, which is heavier than a Tesla, the batteries are most of the weight in those things, but still you have a truck body, and getting 400 miles to a charge.
Yeah,
I'd drive that. I don't want a truck.
Totally. I've just pulled up the full specs here. With a 180 kilowatt-hour battery, it gets 700 horsepower and 823 pound-foot of torque with the 400-mile range. But they do have smaller batteries with shorter range. And
that's a little outdated, I think, from what they were quoting at the auto show. So the other thing about the trucks, they have these really futuristic designs. The pickup truck especially doesn't look like a conventional pickup truck, like a Ram or an F-150 or something like that. It's very kind of space age looking. And they're famous for these. Their headlight treatment is really interesting. It's an LED headlamp setup. They look kind of like one of our writers on Autoblog described them as inverted pills, actual pill that you would take, ingest. and then they're connected by like a band of LED lights. And now that band, interestingly enough, works like a phone charger. So it lights up in green and can show you how, like when you're charging it, it'll show you how fully charged it is.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool? So you can be like at the coffee shop or the restaurant or whatever, and I mean you could do this on your phone app, they say, but you could also like lean out the window and go, "How's she doing?" And it's like halfway charged or whatever. I mean that's pretty cool, And then they also have, I want to say, they've got these other really nifty features. Like my favorite was what they call a gear tunnel, and this is on the truck. It's basically behind the rear seat and like the end of or the start of the truck bed. There are two doors, one on each side, and it's literally a tunnel, and it's for like stowing your gear, and it's totally dry. The compartment doors fold down so they could be like added seats when you're parked somewhere or whatever, but you can throw your stuff in there and not have to keep it in the back bed.
And the SUV is gorgeous too. It kind of reminds me of if a Suburban and a Land Rover had a baby.
Oh, that's it. Yeah,
that
a
was
lot of people
electrified.
compared
It's
them to Land
incredible.
Rovers
Oh,
for
they're
sure. Yeah.
gorgeous cars. I'm so excited to see little companies that you've never heard of in our backyard.
And it's in Plymouth, right?
Yes.
That's their design and engineering center. Like I said, they've got a couple other things in California, and then a small office in England.
One of the things on your Twitter I thought was pretty cool, and it just made me laugh. The frunk, the front trunk. It just, junk in the frunk.
Junk in the frunk, yeah. So there's no engine. So what do you do with that space there? You turn it into a frunk.
That'd be very useful for families and things like that. That makes a ton of sense. And
So
with
with
the
the
pickup truck, it makes a dry storage space.
With the frunk and this gear tunnel, you got tons of storing capacity. And I should also mention, speaking of that, they are promising that both of these vehicles will be able to tow like 11,000 pounds, which is another eye-popping figure. I mean, there's no word on. I'm sure if you're towing 11,000 pounds, that's going to decrease your driving range, obviously, but still.
So is this company going to make a run for it to become a big guy, or do you think somebody's going to buy him?
I think that's the idea, is to make at least what they're saying is to make a run for it. So I asked them about, like, where are you getting all this money? Because it's insanely expensive to try to, start a car company and buy a factory and all this stuff. Excuse me. They have investors who are basically, they're not naming them. They're not talking about who they are. The Chicago Tribune named them. One of them is an investment arm of a Saudi Arabian company. It's not a state-owned company. And then there's another one that's like an alternative energy company. But, they insisted, well, our investors are not in this for, a quick return. They understand that it's really expensive and takes a lot of time to do all this stuff. I mean, so yeah, that said, it's, I think a lot of people are really excited to see where this company goes, but it's a long way. They're saying that they're going to start building these cars next year for deliveries starting in the fall of 2020. But there's a lot to do between now and then, and it's going to cost a lot of money. So it's like, it's not a fait accompli by any means.
Did they talk at all about the MSRP on this? Like, I know battery tech's expensive.
They do. And keep talking, and I'll have to pull this up.
Sure. I know Tesla's start.
I have that number actually.
Wow.
61.5 after federal credits.
Yeah,
wow.
that's for the truck, I believe.
the
And
truck,
the SUV is a little bit more expensive, I think.
Which is the same price as a Tesla, more or less, for Tesla's entry range.
Yeah, I mean, these would be kind of considered, they're calling themselves an adventure brand, but they're kind of they're luxury-ish vehicles.
So adventure brand, kind of like driving over the speed bumps at Suburban Collection.
But that's not out of range for a lot of. I mean, frankly, that's not out of range for a lot of like well-appointed. Like an F-150 or Ram or Silverado, well-appointed, can easily climb to that.
In my head, my first thought went to, why doesn't Jeep and Rivian have a baby? Because I feel like that's the perfect merge right there.
Yeah.
You take that next generation drivetrain and put that with a brand that people love like the Jeep, and you could have a real winner there.
Yeah, but I mean, it'll be interesting because you could see that somebody, it might make an attractive acquisition for some company, who doesn't have this electric vehicle technology and looks at these guys and goes, wow, that's incredible that you guys got this. I mean, I talked to the chief engineer, and he came from McLaren, which is the English.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're a huge name, like an F1 and.
Yeah, right, exactly, like English supercars and everything. And before that, he worked for Lotus Group. So he's, clearly they have a lot of talent. And he said, we've got like super talented software developers up in the Bay Area and everything. So yeah, I mean, a huge splash. There was just so much interest in them. They had their vehicle platform. They call it a skateboard, which is that houses the battery pack and everything. And they're saying, yeah, this is going to basically enable us to build several different styles of cars. So super interesting company.
What I'm thinking too is like if you've got 4 motors controlling the 4 tires, just imagine what kind of jams you could get out of if you were actually using it as an off-road vehicle.
Right, exactly.
It's
like instantaneous torque to the wheels.
This
and
is more than all-wheel
control
drive too, because I mean you could basically reverse one of them while fording the other one to give yourself some like torque and spin.
Yep.
Like, oh my God, I just can't wait to take it out in the snow.
It would be a great snow vehicle for sure.
God, I'm so excited.
So speaking of electric vehicles, we are now almost a week from, and we had you can go back in the feed on Monday. We had a super pod, more than 30 minutes diving into with experts, with local leaders about what happened with General Motors and the strong possibility of permanent closure of the Detroit Hamtramck assembly plant.
Right, ending production there.
Yeah, ending production. So we're about a week out. We've been talking about electrics. Electric has a lot to do with everything because they were making the Volt there, the Volt hybrid and things like that. It's now been about a week out. What kind of fallout are we seeing? Was there any conversation over there in Los Angeles about it?
Yeah, I mean, GM didn't have anything. They weren't debuting anything at the auto show. I mean, they're certainly there, but they had no reveals or anything. I think the interesting thing is I think a lot of people are thinking, man, GM managed to get not only the unions but President Trump mad at them, which was like quite an accomplishment. So I think there's been kind of a lot of second guessing. I mean, I don't know about among GM, but I think people are like, that was a PR blunder and a half, And I heard somebody talking about how this hands the UAW allowed to leverage in their negotiations, which we talked about with Michelle Krebs on the show, starting next year. So I mean who knows? I mean, I think I had an interesting conversation with somebody, and this was speculation for sure, so take it with a grain of salt, but we wouldn't be surprised to see them come up with some kind of new product for some of these plants. Who knows which one, but I mean, especially maybe the Detroit Hamtramck one, just given the history of that plant, and it's GM's home turf and everything. We'll see what happens, but it is definitely triggered a lot of speculation about what's really going on there.
Well, I think a lot of people out there who just drive cars, they might not understand or appreciate just the amount of impact that electrification is going to have on everything, the supply chain. I mean, all kinds of things. If you think about even the idea that you don't need oil changes anymore. Mm-hmm. So what does the oil change place do?
Right.
Because you don't have oil changes. There's a bunch fewer parts that have to go, those kind of things. Nuri, you were taking a look into this in the week while Sven was in L.A., and you had some things that you were noticing.
I took it really hard being the chief gloomologist on that show, but then that spun
You did a good job at it, though.
Well, thank you.
I felt depressed at the end. It was wonderful.
I hate being the harbinger of bad news, but I spun more on this as the days went by, and I kept hearing from different friends who were involved in the industry. I didn't even think about the suppliers. Think about all the suppliers that feed the factories for these parts, these cars that are in this area as well. Someone was telling me that for every GM job lost, he could count more than one supplier job that is lost because of it, which I thought was a really interesting. I'm not sure if that's an exact fact, but that was what my source told me.
Well, it's often said that like every manufacturing job supports 7 jobs downstream.
Wow. And then thinking more about not just suppliers, but as the industry changes, Jerry, you mentioned oil changes, but think about everything else that an electric or a combustion-based car uses. So head gaskets, spark plugs, serpentine belts, timing belts, all those things are now gone in an electric car. There are multiple, I think there's more than a dozen moving parts in a gas engine for a car, but for an electric car, there's only one. So that means you have so much less to service. Mm-hmm. Even brakes, for instance, when you're doing regenerative braking, that makes your brakes last longer. So basically all these consumables that we have industries around supporting combustion cars are going to be impacted by this move to electrification as well.
I think the industry is really struggling to is really wrestling with the idea of like what's coming next, like not only with electric vehicles but especially with self-driving vehicles. And I mean, we've talked a lot like offline about self-driving vehicles and how we think that that's more being driven by Wall Street than it is consumers, at least at this point.
Yeah, consumers aren't there yet.
every journalist I talk to says the same thing. People do not want to read about self-driving cars. I mean, we have to write about them because that's where the industry's going. But people do not click on those stories.
Well, it goes further than that, right? So let's then talk gas, right? And then, sure, a gas station can convert to being an electric gas station. And some of the newer cars like the Rivian promises an 80% charge within 20 minutes, which is incredible. So basically you pull in, grab a cup of coffee, walk around the block once, and all of a sudden your car is ready to go for another 350 miles. But think about the cost to pull up all these underground gas tanks at a gas station and redo the lines and basically restore that to basically just a plot of concrete with some power lines on it. That's a whole industry in itself, the gas station.
Yeah. And I think, so going back to what I was saying about the industry struggling, I think that's part of what explains General Motors' move the other day, cutting all those jobs and ending production, is that they're trying to get ready for this because they know that they're way overstaffed, sort of undercapacitized at their plants to deal with this future. The other thing with autonomous vehicles, though, is that it's just there's no real clear sense that this stuff is imminent. I mean, it's coming, but it's coming in iterative phases. I don't think. I read sometimes of companies like Tesla or whoever that are saying next year, I mean, even GM, that next year we're going to have autonomous vehicles, fully autonomous vehicles on the street. Well, the Congress has not even, they're still struggling with the legislation to legalize self-driving vehicles, fully self-driving vehicles. And by wide accounting, reporting and everything, the technology's not ready yet. I mean, Waymo, the Google sibling, out in the Bay Area, is widely considered to be the most advanced and have the most test mileage accumulated in full autonomous mode, with GM, trailing actually sort of second behind them. But there's it's not ready. That seems to be the general consensus.
Well, it's going to take a long time, right, for adoption.
And it's frankly not the kind of thing that you want to hurry until you're really more than 100% sure it's safe and it works.
I think in Phoenix they're starting an autonomous taxi program, I read 2 weeks ago. And then there was a story just this week about a Tesla driver who was passed out drunk in his car while his car was driving him home. And it took police more than 2 miles to properly stop the Tesla because it was driving. The guy passed out with his hands at 10 and 2, and the car was basically, take me home, I'm drunk. So it is interesting times we live in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, friends, that'll do it for today's Daily Detroit. Make sure to listen to the next episode in the feed where we change gears completely. And
just a little bit.
Just a little bit, and talk to our friend Laura Kay from Sex Essential Crisis. And just a reminder, friends, of course, this podcast is powered by the community. If you enjoyed the show, consider supporting us on the Patreon at patreon.com/dailydetroit. We'll also have a link on the top of the website and the show notes. For Sven, Nuri, Laura, Shai, and Randy, take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit. All right, we'll just do a little breaky here. So
Did
everyone
we run
breathe.
too long so you didn't get your story, or is that going in the next episode?
Next episode.
Okay.
I just realized
All right, cool.
We were going to do this in 2 chunks. So
What is your story?
Yeah.
But I just made sure that I stopped everything.
Perfect.
I was like, oh my God, I have to stop everything? But we're fine.
Yeah, we're totally fine.
So, homie?
I love the camera.
bring the cookies over here.
Bring in the cookies.
Is this all?
Everyone wave.
Yes.
Oh, we're
The camera. Well, and it's not going anywhere right now. You can do whatever the hell you want with it later.
Are we broadcasting live out here or no?
No.
Oh,
no.
out there? No, that's 80s night.
Our live
Okay.
feed is going out to
Oh,
anybody
gotcha.
listening.
Would you like a cookie?
Cookies.
Wait, let me put this cookie back. I got one too many.
I'll take it.
Put the cookie down.
just got too many cookies. I know, but I don't have cooties.
By the way, I totally floated the idea of doing a podcast episode with Rivian, and they were into it.
Oh my God, that's the most exciting news I've heard in the automotive
How
industry
many
since
minutes
Tesla.
is
Yeah.
the second show?
Oh.
Well,
Not the
it's
same.
I was saying, Elon
so
Musk
that
was
first one
probably
was
like
24? 22?
grinding his teeth when
I
he saw
don't
this
know,
come out.
'cause
Yeah, it was about 20. Yeah, about 20.
And you have. And
No, she's just color. This is
haven't
all you.
just got off
Okay,
yet,
got it. I got a lot to talk about.
between 5:50 and 5:55 to allow for the next show.
Oh yeah, totally. That's why.
Yeah.
Are you going to be like, oh my God, I'm so there? If they do interview them.
Oh, 100%. Especially if it's in my house.
It would be off-site.
Yeah, of course.
Probably
I
up
don't
there.
want to go there.
Yeah, totally.
Let's see the factory. From like about a 2 to a 10 in like 3 seconds.
See, that end of the table is taller because of his wood.
Gross.
All right.
I don't think I have anything on the next show, do I? I'll just hang out.
Well, I mean, it's about sex, so you should have plenty of things to say.
Nuri, have you ever had sex? You should try it. It's pretty fun.
I think I just sneezed, actually. Sorry,
I
or
would say
that's actually a really good segue.
That
You know,
also
they
makes a slimy
They
wet
say
mess.
6 sneezes equates 1 orgasm. I don't believe it.
In terms of what?
I don't believe it. I mean, I've
I
had
don't
40
know.
sneezes.
Volume, force, violence. Like
I think.
allergies galore.
Yeah, me too. Like
Who else is just like jizzing
I can
their
speak with
pants
authority
constantly?
that orgasm greater than sneezes. You know?
I tend to agree as well. I've just read that. Maybe someone can pull it up.
I only
Okay.
ever sneeze maximum twice in a row.
Well, aren't you special?
So we're talking about
Apparently
Noel night
not.
tonight.
A little bit of Noel night
Right.
and a lot of Laura.
A lot of Laura.
So like 5 minutes on Noel night,
Cool.
Yeah.
and then move on.
And we do not have a script on this one, is that right?
Nope.
All right, we're winging it.
We did well with the last one.
I actually have a script,
Well, that's all.
but
that
only
matters.
I know the script. So this will be.
We're
real
talking about
exciting.
sex. So
Baby.
We're not even
let's talk
talking
about sex.
We're not
baby.
talking about
Let's
sex.
talk
We're
about
not talking about sex.
Just dating.
No, we can't.
We're talking about dating.
Dating.
During the
We're talking about
holidays.
dating.
Dating during the holidays. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because there's a lot of nuances, like meeting families.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm
Save
not.
it for the show. Save it for the show.
All right.
You're not even talking. You're
I'm
not
not-
even
Are
going
you
that far.
are you
I'm not
going to
going that
talk?
far.
If you're going to talk, I need to introduce you.
No, I don't have to.
Or would you like to talk?
Grab one more sugar
It's-
cookie, please.
No, I
What am I, your
can
cookie bitch?
if
Would you like? If you would like to talk, I will gladly introduce you.
We're. What I think we're talking
All right,
about
we'll throw
is
it in.
meeting people and like how do you go to a holiday party and talk to someone without like losing your mind or getting scared. Like what are the ways to pick someone up?
Thank you, sir. I've always been miserable
Excellent.
at that.
All right.
We're gonna get. I know you're married, but
It's okay.
if you weren't,
So are you guys about ready?
you could use these tips at any networking event. I think that's how I'm going to position it.
Right, and I'm not
Position?
a good networker. That's the thing.
What's that?
Position it.
Just a tip.
Oh look, I have a bell.
No, face down with arrows in your back is the new missionary position.
All right, guys. 5, 4, 3, 2.
From the Detroit Shipping Company studios of Podcast Detroit, this is your Daily Detroit with a second show recorded on December 1st, 2018. And of course, we are having our panel episodes on because it's the holidays, and this is a special episode.
Not only is it the holidays, Jer, it's Noel night, which
With-
is a very special night. This is a very special episode. Do not forget that.
I know how special it is, and you know, Noel.
Guys, I would implore everyone to remember and keep this central. This is a very special episode. It's not a special episode. It is a very special episode.
very, very special. And it's very, very special because our main guest today is Laura Kay from the Sexistential Crisis Podcast. Laura, welcome to the show.
Guys, thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. And our Rogues Gallery is here to talk about dating during the holidays and a variety of other topics, I am sure.
What a fraught subject.
So fraught. And to be clear, before we get started, Laura, these are going to be useful for people of all kinds, whatever kind of situation you're in or preferences you have.
Yeah, I want to try and give your audience some great advice that can be used for meeting people in different situations, particularly when you don't know anyone in the room. So we often encounter that in dating and going to holiday parties or even meeting family. But you can also encounter that in business as well when you're going to networking events. What do you do? And so these tips that I'm going to give to your audience, for the most part, could be interchanged. Some will be more specific for dating, but even if you're married, I think you could use some of these.
Excellent. So before we get started, I'm going to go around the room and talk about everybody. Cheyenne Nocerini is here, our woman who knows all the things happening around town, and we're proud of hers. Last week, she broke the story that Hard Rock Cafe in downtown Detroit is closing. Cheyenne, welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody.
Our chief.
We should also include relationship status.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Like a Facebook thing, you know.
Okay, so Cheyenne.
I am married.
Okay. Next up, Nuri Gojai, technologist and man about town as well. Nuri, welcome to the show.
Happy holidays.
And your status is?
It's complicated.
Oh, perfect. Sven,
Hi.
Hi.
I'm married.
Okay. Randy Walker is here joining us.
Hi, I am single and looking.
All right. And then joining us, Stephanie Menard, stephaniemenard.com. She's an amazing creative, comic books, all kinds of things. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And your status is?
Question mark?
Okay, good.
Sounds
I like that.
complicated.
Yeah.
And I am in a relationship. So,
Does your Facebook status reflect
yes, it does,
Okay,
actually.
that's important.
That is what the Facebook status reflects. Absolutely. It is important. It is important. People care about that, I guess.
Jer, I can't believe you haven't even asked me.
Well,
yeah,
you're next.
it's our host. I mean, it's
Well,
our
I was
guest,
coming
our
around
host,
to you
our
at the
guest.
end because we're going to spend a bunch of time with you. So, Laura, what's your status?
I'm single.
Ready to mingle?
Always ready to mingle.
Well, there you go. All right, let's get into it. It's the holidays. Dating can be a really fraught time any time of year, but the holidays add a ton of pressure, a ton of everything going on. Laura, help us.
All right.
Help me.
We're beyond help. Come on.
Yeah, we're way beyond help.
So when I was thinking about this episode, there are two things that came to mind. And the first one is, well, what actually makes us attractive to other people? And that is whether we are dating them or whether we are meeting them in a business interaction or just socially, the answer is always the same, and it's confidence. And confidence is, apart from looks in dating, one of the most attractive things about a person. So I always say to people, when you're doing awesome things with your life, even in your career, and you're being the most genuine and authentic self you can be, that is very attractive to people. It's attractive if you're looking for a job or if you're looking for a partner. So date yourself. Do cool shit with yourself. Uh-oh. Could I?
That just sounded funny. No, keep going.
I can say the S word? Okay. I'm trying not to swear. Come to my show if you want to hear swearing. Plenty of swearing on my show. Do cool stuff with yourself. Get to know yourself. Take yourself out. And that makes you more attractive to other people. Even in a business context, pursue those interests. The second thing that really stops people, like when you think about walking into a room of 100 unknown people, let's say at a holiday party, what do you guys think? Like, are you anxious?
I'm always anxious in a crowd.
Me too.
Like, I do not like crowds at all.
I don't mind crowds. I just have a hard time sometimes finding a way to get an in that seems natural and doesn't feel completely artificial and made up and cheesy.
Yeah, fair. So I wanted to talk about anxiety a little bit because anxiety and excitement are actually registered the same way in the brain. They are both high arousal states. Anxiety is, though, a negative emotion, and excitement is a positive emotion. So how we choose to feel about what is happening physiologically is either to get scared and get anxious or to get excited. So there's been a lot of research on this. And so when you're feeling anxious, Harvard Business School did a bunch of research that says, instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm so anxious, I'm so scared, just say to yourself, I'm actually really excited. And begin to retrain your brain to think about anxiety differently. And what the research has shown is that excitement primes us for an opportunity mindset. So, all you have to think of are all the good things that are going to happen instead of all the bad. Instead of walking into a room and seeing 100 people there and saying to yourself, gosh, I don't know any of these people. I'm really scared. They're probably going to hate me. I don't look good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not attractive enough. I don't have the right job. One way to shift that is to say, you know what? I'm walking into a room of 100 people and I could make a bunch of new friends here. Just a mindset shift.
Right. But what about when everybody's having fun and because like I said, I would go into the same thing if there's 100 people in there and I don't necessarily know anybody. I just struggle with that icebreaker thing. Without sounding cheesy. If I'm in a small group, I'm basically fine. I can hold my own. I just came from LA and I ended the night drinking with two complete strangers that I had just met that night, including a guy from the UP, which was interesting.
Oh, I love you first.
Oh, yeah. But, it's hard when it's a big crowd and everybody's already off talking and everything, and, I don't want to go interrupt somebody and be that guy.
Well, it always seems like there's everybody off talking. Usually they're off talking to people that they already know because they're generally too scared to talk to anyone else. So I would opportunistically look for people who just seem to be walking around. Perhaps they are waiting on a drink or they're in line for something. That's a great opportunity to go talk to someone and talk about a shared connection. Hey, what are you doing here? Or who do you know at this event? What do you do for a living? You can even start very simply in that way. And then you can build upon that. In terms of dating,
Yeah, let's get to the fun part.
yeah, in terms of dating.
Let's switch out of LinkedIn and go to like
Right.
Tinder.
I know, right. So
This podcast just swiped right.
what I recommend, and this is the hardest part, is making eye contact and holding it. So when you see someone and you like them or you want to at least get to know them better, you need to look them in the eye. Just like this, right? I'm
Right.
staring at you.
Yes, I'm
and I'm
staring back.
smiling and I'm looking approachable and friendly. And so that is the first step. If you want to go meet people, you have to make eye contact with
Right.
them.
I always find it weird when you meet people and they have a hard time looking at you in the eye. Like I notice that all the time. That's one of the first things I notice about those kind of people. I'm like, why can't you?
Well, it's probably a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
It may be that, but it also may be, I mean, I think studies have shown that when you're actively engaged with somebody and having a conversation that resonates with you, you're more likely to, your body language says that you are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you're basically looking off and kind of, checking your phone and staring off the person you're
They're
talking
trying to
is
get away.
probably not interested.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
you're
trying to
bored.
get away. That brings me to another point, dressing for success.
Mm.
We always talk about this in business, but we don't talk about it as much, and especially we don't talk about it with men as much. But I would encourage everyone to dress for the partner you want. So if you're going to go to an event and you're going to wear a dirty t-shirt and some like ruddy jeans, that's what you're going to get back.
Yep.
And if that's what you want, perfect. But if you want that really beautiful, put together woman, she's not going to look twice at you when you're dressed that way.
Yeah.
So you got to up your game a little bit. And the same for women. I actually say to women, do not dress like you are going for a night out in Vegas, because that is going to attract the guy who wants the woman for
Creepers.
just one night in Vegas.
Sure.
That's not going to attract relationship material men.
So what's it like when I'm wearing circus pants out? Just asking for
You
a
are
friend.
you are absolutely going to meet someone who goes to Burning Man.
Sweet. So that explains like my
Very life.
entire,
Your friend.
my entire dating life. That's
Perfect.
amazing. All right, good.
Yeah.
Single ball juggling joke. God, you
Ah.
So the holidays are upon us. There are some unique challenges when you're dealing with maybe meeting folks for the first time or shifting schedules around when you've met someone and you don't really know them that well and having to work out everything. Do you have any kind of insight on that kind of stuff?
I would say be patient. Don't take things personally. People are busy at the holidays legitimately. However, when someone is interested in you, there is rarely a question of that interest. Usually, you know that they're interested.
And there's also like a certain amount of, I mean, I don't mean like a negative connotation with this, but people are sort of, there's like an element of desperation a little bit in the holidays too, don't you think?
Isn't there something called cuffing season?
Well, there's like, I mean, people are.
I heard about cuffing season about a week ago, and I completely misunderstood what it was.
And
I mean,
I-
I said,
I don't know what it is. I've never heard that phrase before.
yeah, me neither.
So the whole idea is that for the wintertime, you want somebody to, cuddle up to be all with. It's
Handcuff.
not necessarily the kind of cuff that's like attached to the bed frame.
Like S&M, yeah. Yeah, I mean, because nobody wants to spend the holidays alone, right? It's lonely. It can be lonely.
Why? I'm sorry. I don't agree with that.
I think statistically there are more suicides during the holidays than there are at any other time of the year.
Chief
Peop-
gloomologist, there we go. Jai strikes again.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you're right in the sense that it's
Damn.
like what makes it different than any other time of the year. But I think people look at it like it's the end of the year. People are
Right.
naturally reflective anyway of like what's going on with my life and everything. I mean,
Absolutely.
it makes sense.
I'm just saying, if you're looking for someone else to solve the misery in your life, you're looking in the wrong place. You need to look inside yourself. So if you think that a girlfriend or boyfriend is going to actually solve your desperation around the holidays, that's like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
Well, true, but suppose you just want to get a little something, like.
Oh,
Some
okay.
Halanookie.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. I get it, but like, come on, we've all been there. Like, of course, you're miserable, and yes, it's probably my own thing, but
Well,
damn, it'd be nice to
let
have
me
somebody
tell
to-
you a story about the holidays and sex. So I was in that position a couple of years ago, and I had just broken up with someone, and I was really kind of sad, and I wanted, they say the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else. So it's right around Christmas, and I go on OkCupid, and I start, swiping for guys. And I find this guy who's visiting Detroit, so I know it's going to be a temporary situation. Perfect.
Mhm.
And I was very direct. I said, I think you're really attractive, and you seem very intelligent, and I would probably enjoy spending the night with you.
And I would like to join your professional network on LinkedIn.
Yeah, as well. That's LinkedIn. I think would be good friends. And we ended up meeting on Christmas night at the one bar that was open in Detroit, which was in the Book Cadillac. And he left the next morning. And it was a really, really fun.
That is a heartwarming Christmas tale.
It was
I really
very,
like that story.
It was heartwarming.
I'm serious.
Is that on Netflix right now? Because
It was so heartwarming, and it was really fun.
It's
And
a Christmas you'll probably never forget, right? I mean,
I
honestly.
will never forget it. Every year that Christmas comes around, I message him.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. So it's like have you ever seen him again?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
we dated.
Oh.
So
Oh, okay. So it wasn't a one night.
it was a one night stand that turned into a year of dating,
Oh.
but the intention was for a one night stand. So yes, you can absolutely have fun. Set your expectations. Be really clear with people. Don't lie or try to bamboozle someone into sleeping with you. That's generally, especially how women get extremely upset. And just be honest about what you're looking for. Demonstrate that you're a good listener. Demonstrate that you're a good conversationalist, and you. It's not that hard.
make some eye contact.
Eye contact.
Yeah, I'm all about communication and being frank with people.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, yeah, bad things can happen, but at least you know where the person stands.
Well, and speaking of communication, I'll circle back to that whole confidence thing, because I see a lot of people out there, men, women, doesn't matter, who are like pining. I'm now thinking of that Monty Python skit of pining for the fjords, but they're pining. They're pining for someone, and hoping something will work, or they'll message or whatever. And what I've learned is it's either going to work or it's not. And if they're not interested, they're not interested, and then you move on. And maybe if they're interested later, maybe it'll circle back. But in reality, if you get yourself too stressed about it, you're going to waste your time not meeting more people
Exactly.
that are actually going to fit what you actually are.
Have other things going on in your life so that dating a person isn't going to be the be all end all of your happiness, because then you get crazy when you don't hear from them and you're not in touch with them. That's also called a codependent relationship. It's pretty unhealthy. I wanted to mention one thing, Jer. How to get a girl's number.
That's a great
Do
topic.
people actually exchange numbers nowadays in this technological world we live in?
Now it's like, here's my Instagram. You can follow me, and we'll see where it goes.
How about sliding into your DMs?
Yeah, there's that.
Well, I'm old school, so I'm going to talk about numbers.
Holler.
Okay. Because I also think that people deserve to be treated respectfully. And especially if you're looking to date someone, I want to treat that person like an adult, right? Adults talk to each other on the phone. They may communicate occasionally via text. They make dates. They make plans. They follow up on them. That's how adults date. We're not talking about how children date or how millennials date. Sorry, guys.
Ooh, and I see, and Randy Walker
Randy
over here,
just
who's been a
woke
little
up.
quiet,
Randy just
has the skeptical look.
no.
I'm a millennial, and I don't consider myself flaky or not showing up or ghosting or things like. I don't do those things.
I didn't say you did.
No, but just
But-
like giving people phone numbers instead
Yeah,
of just
just-
Instagram.
This is a mature way of
Yeah, I think-
communicating with people. It's not like, oh,
Yeah,
we're not dating
can't-
because they blocked me on an app. What?
Yeah.
Like, that's not a thing.
I had one of those the other day, and it particularly stung.
So, I mean,
Ooh.
I don't mean to.
Are you going to tell us what happened?
Yeah, tell us what happened.
I thought we were communicating at a very high and awesome level, and things were going really well, and all of a sudden, no response, and no response, and no response. I'm like, I'm not sure what happened, but cool, see you around town. That was what I sent back. And so
Verbatim, like that's what you said
more,
back.
more or less. Like, it was so
See you around
unusual
town.
to have somebody in their mid-30s all of a sudden just stop communicating with them. Like, did I
And it happens all the time.
I've never been ghosted before.
Oh,
I'm
you
like,
haven't?
No,
Oh,
this is the
welcome.
first time.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
I've been ghosted. I've been ghosted like my name was Casper.
See, I've been off the market, quote unquote, since well before the advent of dating apps and stuff. So I'm I find it fascinating because I never got to experience it, and I'm happily married, but I wish that I could. I wish that I had experienced it, just because. And people tell me
I
oh,
don't
dude, it's not
wish
a
you'd
panacea, and
experienced
it's
it.
weird, and it's. But there's something about it that I like the fact that it people are, what everybody's there for. I feel like it encourages a certain upfrontedness, maybe.
I have to share a story here because we were drinking in Ferndale, and I remember you grabbing my phone after a few extra pops and swiping right for me because you were so enamored with this thing that you took over the wheel.
I've never been able to swipe right.
Yeah, and you were just into it. You're like, this one, nope, this one. No, it was great. It was hilarious.
Back to the numbers. Okay, so here's what I recommend ladies do. It's a little easier for women because men are very flattered to get attention from women because that's very uncommon for them. Remember that, ladies. Complimenting men is a big deal.
I used to love it when a woman would actually ask me out. I was like, oh my God.
Right, because it doesn't happen that
You
much.
took that off my shoulders? God bless you.
Sven, your beard is so svelte.
I never had a beard back then, trust me.
Seriously, I had to see pictures.
Later.
All right.
So here's something I've actually done, and I've heard of dating coaches also recommending this, and believe it or not, it does produce results. You're in a bar or you're at an event and you see someone who's attractive. Here's what you do. You write your first name and phone number on a card or a piece of paper. You have not necessarily spoken to them, or maybe you have, but when you're ready to leave the bar, here's what you do. You walk up to them and you hand them the card and you say, hey, I think you're really cute and I would love to get to know you better. I don't know what your situation is, but if you're interested, here's my information. Then you immediately turn around,
Run away.
and leave. Immediately. You don't wait for a response. You just walk away.
The chase is on.
Yeah, I like that because you're totally not threatening, right?
You're non-threatening.
You're leaving it in their court.
You're saying, I don't know what that person may be married and be super flattered. And then you're not making them respond and kind of get awkward. You're just saying, here it is. If you want to use this, great. And goodbye.
Right. The worst you could do is flatter them, basically.
Exactly. The worst you can do is flatter them, and it's totally
So
non-threatening.
in the karmic universe, you come out ahead right there.
Yeah, and I think men can do that as well.
Yeah.
And
you were talking about women doing that?
oh, absolutely. I've done that.
I've actually watched her do that on her Insta stories.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, your Instagram is pretty darn entertaining. So here is the deal. It is so cold in the D in the holiday season, but it has been hot here on the Daily Detroit podcast.
So hot.
So hot. And thank you to everyone who has been listening to this episode. Laura Kay, where can people find all things Existential Crisis?
Well, if you want to listen to the podcast and hear the X-rated version of what we talk about each week, head on over to sexistentialcrisis.com. You can find us also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts.
Well, everyone, thank you so much to listening to Your Daily Detroit. Of course, this podcast is powered by the community, so is our entire site, our newsletter, our website. It helps everybody keep things on. You can go ahead and support at patreon.com/dailydetroit. For Cheyenne, Nuri, Sven, Randy, and Laura Kay, I'm Jer Stays. And, of course, Stephanie Menard, who popped into this one as well.
Thanks, Stephanie, for twiddling the knobs
Thanks,
for us.
Oh, no problem.
Chief Knob Twiddler.
Very good at it.
Very good. I'm Jer Stays.
I'm Sven Gustafson.
Take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit. There we go.
Did we do it?
Good.
We did the thing.
We did
the thing.
Didn't suck too bad.
Two of the things, actually. No, that was great.
No?
Didn't suck too bad. Pretty bad, but
Stephanie,
pretty
will
bad.
you take a photo of us?
Yeah, sure.
Sitting back down.
Yeah, sit
And
down.
then
Sit down.
It's
it's
a
time
well
to
night to
pee,
remember.
and hopefully, I think it's not raining anymore. Maybe.
Yeah. To help it be less cold in the D this holiday season. That was a good one.
Look excited, maybe? Like, I don't, like, look just better?
That's hard.
All right.
There's a reason we're on audio, not.
Well, no, I mean,
Thank you.
y'all look like,
Yeah, they're.
like
Best
you were trying to, like,
creates in
loose
Detroit
feel
media.
me, and I'm not having that.
Let's do a group
Look like
photo.
we're actually having fun.
In front of the pedal pub.
Yes.
Oh God.
That would be hilarious. We should just steal the pedal pump.
There's enough of us.
My favorite is in the Gross Plate Mom Swap. Somebody goes, "Do they do paddle pups in December?" And I'm like, "What's a paddle pup in the middle?"
Well, the answer
Did I
is
see
yes.
one in LA and I was talking with somebody about pedal pubs? I feel like I'm experiencing like a time warp. Having there's something about like going a couple different time zones away and then coming back
I
in
don't
the
think
same
they
week.
have them.
I saw one somewhere and I was like, oh my God, those things are all over Detroit. And I was talking all
Really?
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, they are all over.
I had a lot of conversations in the past couple days. That are starting
Thank you,
to blend
Dave. Thank
together.
you, Stephanie.
I think I had more drinks than I realized.
No worries, man.
Oh.
I ended up in the bar the other night in Little Tokyo
Who's the 6 o'clock
Y'all
slot?
are like my ass.
with
Oh,
this
yeah.
I mean,
lifelong
well, I've been running
Angelino
shows
Armenian
since, like,
woman and then this
noon,
big
Okay.
But
Indian
I'm just
Uper
making
guy.
sure that I understand every.
Now those are my drinking
Oh,
partners.
wait,
and I was
did
like,
how did you talk to them?
I went out. So I went out with a friend of mine from Detroit who used to work with this Angelino woman at Adweek.
Oh,
And so we went out with her, and she was crazy. She was super nice, but crazy as hell.
I like the sound of her.
And yeah.
Me too, actually.
And my friend,
We know
like
when
we
Nerdy
ate,
says
we had
purring.
dinner in Little Tokyo, and it was great. And then my friend was just like, "Guys, I gotta go back to the hotel. I'm crashing out." I'm like, we hadn't drank through dinner, and I'm like, I'm ready to go get a drink, you know.
There you go.
Oh,
So we went out, and
leave
yeah,
the
it was
rest
just one of those crazy nights. Like,
Who's
Mine.
Crazy nights with Sven.
so it's like I said, I'm good in small groups, but not big ones.
Crazy nights.
It's gonna be crazy, crazy night.
Yeah, that
Good
was
job, everybody.
lovely.
Thank you.
It was
Thank you,
so
everyone.
super. Thanks for asking. What are you mother scratchers doing?
Don't know. I know Cheyenne wants to do the WDT tour
Oh,
because she's never done it.
you can tour the studios. I would love
Yeah,
to
they
do that.
yeah they can do this. They're touring the studios and everything and see how everything's set up.
That's fun.
You want to do it? Or are you gonna be here
When is it?
now? Like until 9. We were thinking about like heading over in a little bit and getting in line and right around the corner. They're just a few blocks away. We might like Cheyenne doesn't have the baby carrier in the back, so we can carpool.
I heard you to Auburn Hills.
Tonight?
Yeah.
What are you doing there?
My best friend lives there.
Booty call?
Stuff. No. He's doing stuff for his birthday and celebrating his kitchen remodel being finished.
Oh, when do you gotta be up there?
It started at 5-ish, I think.
Oh,
but
okay.
this usually starts late, so.
Okay.
Get a drink and I'll be right back.
Do your thing, man. What's up, boys? Hey, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. What's up, Randy? Wonderful, man. You? Good. Fantastic. Yeah, will be. That's all right, though.
Oh my god, it's a little padded room. Look at this.
Yeah, it's soundproofed.
Oh,
All right.
that's
To remind me.
If there was a murder in here, no one could hear
I
it.
have no idea. I feel, however, I
Is
feel
it
like you're
weird?
thinking about
I
it.
just said.
You were like, oh, it's murder time.
There's so many choices.
All right, I need my backpack. And check this out. All right, Courtney, baby, you're gonna, since Mike is in here, I need you to run
Yeah.
just the Facebook video live.
I don't know.
Yep, I got you. I'm gonna set it up right now.
Sorry, I'm like the least techie person, but sure.
And I need you to take pictures on your phone.
Okay. What does your friend look like that you're waiting for?
Mexican. Does that? I know it doesn't mean very much.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, you know what? Fuck. 'Cause he's gonna text that phone. And he's here.
This chat? This group chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, you got it on your phone. God darn it, that's awesome.
And the smartphone.
Yeah. There to
Oh, man.
remind me.
I just remembered.
All right.
Are you afraid of heights?
I got
Oh, you ran.
yeah.
It's okay.
That's all right.
That wasn't even on purpose. get you, girl.
Can we put this in the corner?
Yeah, I was gonna. You can put that wherever. I was gonna set this up.
I'm just gonna get this out of the way. Unless you guys wanted some random ass food.
Nope.
Left from
No random
questionable
ass-
meats.
No thanks.
Tiho though. Babe, is this yours right here? This,
The pad, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't mention this before, but you write exactly like my brother.
Well, he is a rocket scientist, so
Nuclear engineer. Different. Oh my god, I gotta
yeah.
sneeze.
Homeboy taught nuclear engineering at
Naval Academy.
Naval Academy. in
Oh, well,
Annapolis.
excuse me.
Legit. Yeah, right? That's what I said. Oh, really? Okay. Should we run it? Yeah, we'll run it from the This Detroit Life Facebook, not my own. Let's go. Where can I? Where's my go live button?
I wonder what's on that side. Oh
Mhm.
my god, there's like a whole other side of this.
Yeah.
What? Oh, I retract what I said earlier. We walked in and it was like, in my mind, this felt so much bigger in the pictures.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or like the blueprints. Like, I thought it was just that little bit. I didn't
Right.
even realize that there was like a whole other. I don't know.
And hey, I didn't know this was
Have you
here.
been here before?
Nope. No way.
Where's home for you, Corey? Are you city? Or are you?
I am in Harper Woods, so like 94 and 8 Mile ish.
Okay.
Like the street is country club. It doesn't look like a country club.
Is it east or west? Or
East.
Okay.
Yeah. So like take like I said, take 94 to all the way to 8 Mile, and that's where
And then
I
go
am.
right.
Yeah, but it, like we just moved over there maybe 6 months ago. Like most of the time was in like we've been in Southfield, but like we had a baby, so we were like we gotta find a crib.
Sure.
We found a place near my mother who started living in Harper Woods a couple years ago.
Mhm.
But like the beginning of my life was on the west side,
Okay.
so like this is all weird to me. You
Oh,
know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Like being
Yeah,
on
and
the
I grew
east
up on
side
the
is
east side,
not.
so when I go to the west side, it's like.
like what's going on
But
here?
like far, like west side Detroit side, but like far west side, like I lived in Livonia for like a year.
Yeah.
Fucking miserable, didn't know shit.
Right,
Like,
right.
Yeah, it was bonkers.
Yeah, man, I'm still trying to figure out the east side. It's like it really is a new world to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So just seeing what's up, making my way downtown.
Fast
That
and
sounds-
proud. Home by.
All right, bye guys.
All right, so this is going straight. Is it going to?
Where it says on air, does that mean someone's listening right now?
Yeah, it's live. Well, no, I don't think right now, but when we go on, it will be. And that's okay if you're talking. Check it. Go on Facebook and see if this popped up because it's on Facebook Live now.
It's funny because I was just talking about murder. Holy crap. I've never watched a Facebook Live.
Did it alert you guys that it went live at all?
Hold on a second.
It's posted about no all night.
Try another way of going live during your broadcast.
It definitely says live.
Hey, I can see
Yeah.
Corey. This is crazy.
Yeah, if you guys could just like, yeah.
Hey, I can see Corey. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I thought we'd be able to tag people in it and shit. Oh, your viewers, Court, your channel.
Hey, someone's walking this way.
My backpack's over there.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Is it this one?
Yes. Thank you so much. Good luck with your show, everybody.
Thanks,
so
guys.
much.
Enjoy your night.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely.
It. Are you? Oh, Randy, where are you going?
I'm going to do a tour of the WDET studios.
Dude, that's awesome. Enjoy, man. This is my girlfriend Courtney. This is my buddy Kari. He's
It's nice to meet you.
engineer at Podcast.
Oh
Detroit.
yes, sir. Yeah, there we go.
Got it.
Knows David actually too. Well, has met
David.
David Wintermeyer.
Oh yeah.
Jason David. Yeah.
Yay.
All right, Randy, be safe, bud.
See ya.
I wonder if I would get more viewers from the TDL Facebook or from the my personal one.
That is
Way more connections.
Yeah. supposed to, but Dave's gonna come back. He said he's gonna grab a drink and a smoke and be back.
Is that the person that just was here?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, if he's grabbing one, do you mind if I grab one? Or do you want me to stay here? I can stay here.
You can grab one if you want. I just don't know if it's gonna be like when you're coming and going kind of. Yeah, if you see Mike down there, send him up here.
Yeah, I'll watch for the snake guy.
All right.
I love you.
I love you too.
Ari, I love you too. Extend all my love.
Well, damn.
Do you want anything from downstairs?
If there's like a water, I promise that's all I need.
Yeah.
You're the best.
Dave, I would ask you. I saw your drink glasses.
Yeah. Booze. Holler at your boys. All right, man.
Boo.
Yeah. So sue me. I like to drink.
It's a thing. So I've heard.
Just so you know, we're Facebook Live right now too. Feel free if you wanted to do like something like that. Courtney's gonna take pictures. Mike was supposed to come and run it, but he might be running late.
Right. And this thing is, I
This is
need
a nice
I need to
setup,
plug that up somewhere, but I don't have a cord.
It's
So
a nice setup, isn't it?
this is man, like here.
So when after the, I know we gotta figure out a way to like. Yeah, dice roll. It's all he knows.
That Dame Dash.
So after the intro plays, we'll jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell, or something. You know what I mean? Like Merry Noel night, Christmas.
Bang.
Oh. Yeah, exactly.
Let me see something.
You look good in that TDL sweater. You can cop one at thisdetroitlife.com/shop. Oh, big man Dave's coming in. So you mentioned that we could set up through, but I don't know what the thing is, so I just set mine up.
Okay, well, I mean, we can still record and give it to you.
Okay. Whatever
Yeah,
you
whatever
want
works.
How's everything going, bro?
Dude, it's friggin' nuts.
Yeah. You've been here all day.
Yeah,
Before I took my nap. Before I took my nap, I I saw that and I was like,
Hey, how's it
Hey,
going,
how's it
guys?
going?
Super.
Michael, Kari.
Nice to meet you.
Meet you too.
Yes.
I will be engineering your show. Like,
Perfect.
Well, apparently Dave's doing it right now, but
I'm just changing a title on the video.
okay.
We're live in my Facebook.
It's
page,
me.
just
I
so
have
you
to
know.
control some things.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. I know where that goes.
Oh,
I was saying, who put all the food over there?
Probably the Daily Detroit guys.
That's your seat. Well, actually, you have all these other seats.
I know.
But
I'll go where I want. Actually, you go ahead.
thank you.
Said Sarah?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Shit.
It's fine. It starts with an S. Same difference. Whatever. I'm really bad with names, so I don't get pissed if people don't rhyme.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully Courtney makes it back before we start recording. But not worried about it. Thanks for having us, man. Really
No, totally
appreciate
cool.
it. I know
Yeah,
it's
pretty dope.
pretty cool opportunity for us to be doing this. Kari's going to be, I want him to be our engineer.
Okay.
And he's interested in doing it for the show, but also possibly for other shows
Okay.
here and Royal Oak. So
Yeah, I know how to do stuff.
he knows how to do all that. Dave is the owner.
Everybody
right?
thinks that. And then I
Yeah.
set them down in front of our shit. They're like, whoa.
Yeah.
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 I,
I
know, I
absolutely-
know other shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always call out that.
I know other shit.
Yeah. But so I
I should've
wanted
been
him to
more
be a co-host
specific.
with me, and I figured that if we could just get him in with you guys, he could get paid on that way doing my show, and I could still pay the same amount, and
Yeah.
then we could just plug him into other ways. Just had a baby and all that, so
Yeah, man.
little extra scratch.
Boy or girl?
Little boy, Edison.
Isn't that a good name?
He's
Yeah.
super.
I love it.
He's pretty cute. Uh-oh, hold on.
He takes after his mom, obviously.
Yeah.
Because Car's ugly. You guys get it?
Well, it's like,
Yeah.
Jim, or one of the guys was in here earlier, had his new baby with him, and he was like, "Yeah, she looks nothing like me." I'm like, "Well, I mean, is that a bad thing?"
Yeah. No, not so much.
Oh, Jimmy.
There you go.
She's a spitting image of me.
Oh, really? What he said to me, he was like, "Yeah, she looks nothing like me."
Oh my goodness, what a handsome
I hope
man.
I hope that girl buys one of these.
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
He's handsome as hell.
And like, yep, that's crazy. And like that is crazy.
It's okay. Yeah, did anyone text you? At 6:04, this guy says en route. I know you.
You
hear me,
are
but-
far too kind.
Yeah, we'll have
Thank
to,
you.
like, if you want to start, because we have to.
Yeah, we have to start. Yeah, absolutely.
There's another show after.
Yeah,
this.
we
We're
can
just gonna,
start
like,
as soon
keep on
as.
time.
Absolutely.
And
We
they
can get
can
going.
come in and, like, I'll pop their mics on.
No, this guy was just supposed to run the Facebook Live, but he was supposed to be here a half hour ago. So if he doesn't even get in, I don't really care.
There it is.
No, like that's why I said I told you, thank you so much for being like on time, early.
Man,
Stuff like that.
I don't
Okay,
play
so
with time.
Now it's just you two guys on mic.
For sure.
Or
Yep.
Is she coming in?
No, that my girlfriend.
Hi.
Take pictures and
Silent.
pictures and stuff like
A
that.
Just
silent
hanging out.
partner.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she is definitely not my silent partner. I'll tell you, like she's not my silent partner. She's my lovely, beautiful, amazing, wonderful partner. I got a double wide couch. I got a double wide. Pull the ottoman up right next to it so I can
Just in
spread out.
case.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right.